Hello everybody, my name is Harvey. Today I will show you how to capture NetFlow data from a DrayTek router using VigorConnect as a NetFlow collector and VigorACS to display the graphs and statistics. I assume that for existing VigorACS users, the setting up of TR069 and DrayDDNS has already been done, so I will go through them very quickly. And also the analysis of the data displayed by VigorACS will be kept to a minimum, as longer version of this demo will be available with more details about NetFlow and the threats that are being monitored in a webinar which will be released later. I will also be using VigorACS version 3.4.0 and VigorConnect version 1.6.0 or later. Here is the layout of my demo equipment. You will see that the DrayTek Vigor 2865 LAC is connected to the VigorACS through the internet using the normal TR069 settings, and I have shown the router 2865 VAC in front of the VigorACS just because we have to open some ports on the router. You will also note that there can be only one VigorConnect per router open network, since VigorConnect can see only LAN devices but not routers themselves. However, you may have one VigorConnect for each router registered on the VigorACS. Again, the NetFlow traffic will be collected by VigorConnect and sent to the VigorACS processing the graphs and stats display. I have also made reference to the application notes shown on the bottom line. It is knowledge base 10932. You will get a copy of it in the notes below this video. So here is the list of steps that we will follow for this exercise. That is, configure TR069, create DrayDDNS, open ports, install VigorConnect, link the VigorConnect to VigorACS and then use HTTPS to open the VigorACS before selecting the target router 2865 LAC to look at the flow data collected, and finally analyze the graph and charts given by the VigorACS. So let's start with the configuration of the TR069 and register the 2865 LAC to the ACS server. Here is our 2865 LAC, which also needs NetFlow enabled. We check the system date and set up the TR069 to connect to the ACS server. Then we enable NetFlow and enter the IP address of the PC hosting the VigorConnect. Here it is 192.168.1.12. Note that the port used is 4739. Now we will create a DrayDDNS name for our ACS server. Remember, the router in front is the 2865 VAC, just to differentiate it from the target router, which is the Vigor 2865 LAC. So we click on Enable Dynamic DNS Setup, select an index, here number 1, and then click on Sync Domain. Here we have netflow1.drayddns.com has already been registered, and if you want to know the details on how to get a free DrayDDNS name, please go to the DrayTek knowledge base 5168. I will put a link under the video afterwards. Now we will open the necessary ports on the 2865 VAC for NetFlow operation. Here the ports are as specified in the application notes, such as 27,000, then 20,314, port 49,150 to 160, and also 3478, which is, by the way, not mentioned in the article. Now we will install VigorConnect on a PC behind the Vigor 2865 LAC router. So we launch the exe program and follow the default prompts. This may take 4 minutes, and then finally we'll show the VigorConnect setup. We can now see that the HTTP port is set at 90 to 92, which we will use later. And the NetFlow tab will show the outbound IP, which is a PC IP address at 192.168.1.10, and the IP fixed port is set as 4739. NetFlow is enabled, and we click OK to finalize. Oops, we get an error message saying wrong IP address. A quick IP config will show that the correct IP address is 10.0.0.20, which is now accepted, and settings are successfully updated. After a few lines of program, the installation is completed successfully. Just in case you missed the VigorConnect setup page, you can go to the toolbar and search the VigorConnect icon, right-click and press on the setup, and do the same to restart the application. Now we are back to the VigorACS 3, and we check that the SD1 switch is enabled so as to capture the WAN, VPN and VoIP data packets. We will now link the VigorConnect to the VigorACS 3 server. We log on to the VigorConnect and select the network to monitor. And then we go to System, ACS, enable the server, and then fill in the register server IP, or in our case, the DrayDDNS name, that is netflow1.DrayDDNS.com. Then we set the port to 2314 as per the application notes, and enter the username and password of the network as defined in the VigorACS 3 server. You can see the network management of the VigorACS 3 here with the Brisbane network and its password. Click on Save and note the Save Success message and the green tick on status, which shows that the VigorConnect is now linked to the VigorACS 3 server. We will now use HTTPS on our browser to access the VigorACS 3 server, or else the flow square icon will not appear next to the router's name. Then we will select the target router and then go to the Monitoring tab and select Flow, and proceed to download the captured NetFlow data by clicking on Login Device. It may take a minute or two. This is where you need to be very patient, since the screen seems to be frozen at times. We will now briefly browse through the graphs and data captured by VigorConnect. We will not spend too much time as explained before. There will be a longer video of a webinar that will be released later explaining them more in details. This exercise is only to demonstrate how to do the capture and then display it in VigorACS 3. Basically, there are 6 horizontal tabs. First is the device overview, then IP tab, protocol, applications tab, device attack monitor, and finally device attack defense setting tab. Starting with the device overview, you will see a pie chart showing upstream and downstream flow usage. Then you get the IP tab, where you will be able to inspect the source IP as well as the destination IP in terms of data usage. See the destination IP usage and the source IP usage. There is even a drop-down menu where you can choose a number of available sources and destination IPs. After that, you will get the protocol tab, where the top 20 protocol used in terms of percentage is displayed, such as HTTPS, PCSync, etc. Then comes the application tab, which shows the applications using the most data in terms of percentage, for example, Google App, Facebook, Office 365, etc., as well as application visit rate, again in terms of percentage. Next, we have the device attack monitor, which shows a list of monitoring of attacks on the router. The list starts with the SYN flood monitor, ICMP flood monitor, TCP flood monitor, tiny fragment monitor, and a few other more. Finally, we have the device attack defense settings, where you can adjust the scanning parameters to your taste, such as the device upstream and downstream flow, inspect source and destination flows, and many other similar parameters. This concludes my demo today on how to capture NetFlow data using VigorACS 3. Thanking you for your kind attention.